The phone vibrated on the kitchen counter at exactly 2:17 a.m. Not a loud vibration, not aggressive, just enough to be noticed in a silent apartment that had been quiet for hours. The kind of quiet where even the hum of the refrigerator felt too loud. The kind of quiet that made the walls feel closer than usual. He stood frozen near the sink, hands still wet, staring at the black screen lighting up the room. The message preview appeared. Don't turn around. No sender name, no number, just those 3 words. The light from the phone reflected faintly on the tiled wall behind him, a pale glow, cold, unfriendly. The apartment felt different instantly, like something had shifted the moment the message arrived. The air felt heavier, thicker, as if breathing suddenly required effort. He didn't move, not because he was calm, because his body refused to obey. The back of his neck burned with a strange heat, the kind people describe when they swear someone is standing too close, that invisible pressure, that uncomfortable awareness, the sense that space behind him was no longer empty. The apartment had only 2 rooms, a small kitchen connected to a narrow living space, and beyond that, a bedroom with a door that never quite closed properly. Old building, cheap rent, thin walls. He knew every sound this place made, every creak, every groan. But right now, there was no sound at all. No footsteps, no breathing, no movement. Only the phone, vibrating again. Another message. I said, don't turn around. His reflection stared back at him from the dark window above the sink. Just his own face, pale, eyes wide, jaw tight. Nothing behind him, just shadows and the faint outline of furniture. But reflections could lie, and reflections never showed everything. The phone buzzed a 3rd time. You're not alone. That was when his stomach dropped, because he lived alone, had lived alone for over a year, and no one else had a key. The feeling behind him grew stronger. Not a touch, not a breath, just presence. Like standing at the edge of a pool and knowing the water was deep without seeing the bottom. The clock on the microwave ticked loudly as it changed to 2:18 a.m. Time was still moving. Whatever this was, it hadn't stopped that. He slowly picked up the phone. The screen felt cold against his palm. Too cold. His fingers trembled as he unlocked it, heart pounding so hard it felt visible beneath his skin. The message thread was empty before tonight. No previous texts, no missed calls, no history. The sender field read, unknown. He didn't type anything back. He didn't turn around. He just stood there, staring at the words, trying to convince himself this was some kind of sick prank, a wrong number, a delayed message, anything that made sense. But deep down, a quiet part of his mind already knew. Pranks didn't feel like this. The silence broke suddenly. A soft sound came from somewhere behind him. Not footsteps, more like fabric shifting, like someone adjusting their weight. The air moved just slightly, enough to brush the back of his arms. His reflection in the window flickered as a cloud passed over the moon outside. For half a second, the glass darkened completely. No face, no room, just black. The phone vibrated again. If you turn around, it will see you see it. His chest tightened. The words made no sense, but they felt deliberate, carefully chosen, as if whoever or whatever was sending them understood rules he didn't. The apartment suddenly felt too small, like the walls were listening, like the ceiling was leaning down. He thought about running, thought about grabbing his keys, thought about the front door only a few steps away, but the thought of turning his back even slightly made his legs feel weak. The phone buzzed again. It doesn't like being noticed. A memory surfaced then, an old one, something he hadn't thought about in years. This wasn't the first time something strange had happened to him. It was just the first time it had followed him home. The presence behind him shifted again, closer now. He could feel it in his spine, in his bones, like static crawling under his skin. His reflection in the window returned. His face again, but something was wrong. His eyes weren't focused on himself. They were focused slightly above his own head. He swallowed hard. Very slowly, he raised the phone higher, angling the camera toward the window's reflection without turning his body. The screen showed the same thing the glass did: his face, the kitchen, shadows, and behind him, nothing. No shape, no outline, no movement. But the pressure didn't leave. If anything, it felt amused. The phone buzzed again. Cameras don't work. His breath hitched. That single sentence confirmed what he already feared. Whatever was behind him could see the phone screen, which meant it was close enough to read. The lights in the apartment flickered once, just a quick blink, then steady again. The refrigerator hummed back to life, louder than before. Too loud, like it was trying to fill the silence. Another message arrived. You brought it back with you. His thoughts raced. Brought it back from where? He hadn't gone anywhere strange tonight. Just work, the train, the walk home through familiar streets, the same routine he followed every day. Or at least, that's what he told himself. The presence behind him leaned closer. This time, he smelled something. Not rot, not decay. Dust. Old dust. Like paper that hadn't been touched in decades. Like the inside of a closed room. The phone buzzed again. You saw it first. The words unlocked another memory, sharper this time, clearer. A different building, a different night, another silence. The abandoned apartment complex on the edge of the city, the one scheduled for demolition, the one everyone avoided. He had gone there weeks ago, driven by curiosity and boredom, just to look, just to take photos, just to feel something different. That place had been quiet, too. Too quiet. He remembered the long hallway, the peeling paint, the doors with numbers scratched out, the feeling of being watched even then. He remembered seeing something at the end of the hall, something tall, still. Wrong. He had told himself it was a shadow. The phone vibrated violently now, over and over, like it was panicking. You shouldn't have looked at it. The air behind him shifted sharply, like someone stepping closer without touching the floor. His ears rang. A low pressure built in his head, like descending underwater. He squeezed his eyes shut. Every instinct screamed at him to turn around, to face it, to confirm it, to end the uncertainty. But the messages warned him not to, and something deep inside him understood why. Some things changed when they were seen. The presence leaned so close now that the heat at the back of his neck became almost painful. The smell of dust grew stronger. His breathing became shallow, uneven. The phone buzzed one last time. It's learning you. The microwave clock clicked to 2:19 a.m. In that exact moment, something touched the air near his ear. Not a hand, not a breath, more like attention, focused, heavy, curious. His reflection in the window smiled. He did not. The smile was slow, unfamiliar, too wide, and it wasn't his. The lights in the apartment flickered out. Complete darkness swallowed the apartment, leaving only the faint glow of the phone screen in his trembling hand. In the black, something shifted, and whatever stood behind him finally understood where he lived. Darkness didn't arrive gently. It dropped. 1 second the kitchen existed. The next, it was erased. No outlines, no shadows, just a thick, crushing black that felt physical, like fabric pulled over the eyes. The refrigerator stopped humming. The air stopped moving. Even the building itself seemed to hold its breath. Only the phone remained alive. Its screen glowed in his hand, the light weak but stubborn, like it was afraid to go out. The glow showed his fingers shaking. It showed the edge of the counter. It showed just enough to remind him where he was. But it did not show what was behind him. The pressure at the back of his neck didn't fade with the lights. It intensified. Without sight, The sense of presence grew sharper, more detailed. He could feel the exact distance between himself and whatever stood there. Too close. Close enough that if it moved, it wouldn't need to take a step. His breathing sounded loud in his own ears. Every inhale felt borrowed. Every exhale felt like permission. The phone vibrated again. The light flickered as a new message appeared. Stay still. That word didn't feel like advice. It felt like instruction. His legs trembled, muscles burning as if he'd been holding the same position for far too long. The cold tile beneath his bare feet sent chills up his spine. Somewhere in the darkness, a faint creak echoed, not from the floor, from higher up, like a ceiling beam adjusting its weight. The apartment was old, he knew that, but it had never sounded alive before. The phone buzzed again. It uses movement to find you. That sentence settled into him slowly, like a parasite finding a place to curl up. Movement. He thought about how many tiny movements he made without noticing. A shift of weight, a twitch of fingers, a swallow, even breathing counted. The presence behind him reacted subtly to his thoughts, or maybe to his fear. The pressure shifted, not closer, not farther, just repositioned, as if it were aligning itself with him, matching him. The phone vibrated. You're doing better than last time. Last time. The memory forced itself forward again, sharper now, less forgiving. The abandoned complex hadn't just been a random place he wandered into. He remembered that clearly now. He'd gone there because of a message, a location pin sent from an unknown number. No explanation, just coordinates and a time. He had told himself it was a prank. He told himself a lot of things back then. The glow of the phone suddenly dimmed, as if the battery had dropped all at once. The edges of the screen darkened. Panic flared in his chest. If the phone died, he would be blind. If the phone died, whatever was behind him would be the only thing left. The message bubble appeared slowly this time, like it was being typed carefully. The light bothers it. The words brought a strange kind of relief. Fear, yes, but also information, rules, limits, things he could hold on to. He angled the phone slightly, keeping the glow behind him, hoping the light pushed into whatever space the presence occupied. The pressure eased by a fraction. Barely noticeable, but enough. Enough to tell him the message was true. The apartment responded. A low sound rolled through the walls. Not a noise, exactly. More like vibration, like the building was adjusting to a new occupant. The air temperature dropped. His breath fogged faintly in front of his face. The phone vibrated again. It's been here before. That didn't make sense. He had lived here over a year. No strange events, no sounds, no shadows, nothing that couldn't be explained by old pipes or tired neighbors. Unless it didn't need to be noticed to be present. The pressure behind him shifted again. This time, something brushed the air near his shoulder. Not a touch, a displacement, like something moving through space that wasn't meant to be solid. His reflection suddenly appeared on the dark window again, faint and distorted by the phone's glow. His face looked wrong, too pale, eyes too dark. And behind him, the darkness bent. Not a shape, not a figure, more like the absence of space. The phone vibrated hard. Don't look for edges. The warning came too late. The darkness behind him seemed to ripple, as if responding to attention. The pressure spiked. His ears rang again, louder this time. A thin, high-frequency sound crawled through his skull, making it hard to think. He squeezed his eyes shut. The apartment groaned. A sound came from the bedroom now, a soft click. The door that never closed properly had just finished closing. That door hadn't moved on its own in months. The phone vibrated. It likes rooms. His heart pounded hard. It hurt. The idea of that thing moving freely through his apartment, memorizing corners and distances, made his skin crawl. He realized something then. The presence wasn't just behind him anymore. It was everywhere the light wasn't. The phone buzzed again. You're not the only one, it followed. That sentence landed heavier than all the others. Not the only one, which meant there was a second person someone connected to the abandoned complex, someone who had also looked. His thoughts snapped to a name without effort, a memory he'd been avoiding since that night, the only other person who had been there. The phone vibrated again, slower now, deliberate. She didn't learn fast enough. The darkness near the bedroom door deepened. The temperature dropped again. The ringing in his ears intensified until it felt like pressure behind his eyes. He felt the presence shift away from his back, not retreating, redirecting, toward the bedroom. The phone buzzed. It remembers her shape. Something slid across the floor in the darkness, a soft drag, like fabric against tile. The sound moved from the bedroom door towards the living area, slow and patient. The phone light flickered violently now, dimming and brightening like a failing heartbeat. Another message appeared. If it finds a place to stand, it stays. His lungs burned. He realized he hadn't taken a full breath in what felt like minutes. The smell of dust grew stronger, almost choking. The apartment felt crowded, not physically, existentially, as if there were too many things occupying the same space. The dragging sound stopped. The pressure returned behind him, but different now, split, like 2 points of focus, one close, one farther away. The phone vibrated one last time before the screen dimmed almost to black. You need to move before it decides. The battery indicator flashed red. 1%. The light flickered, then steadied weakly. In that thin, fragile glow, his reflection shifted again. This time, the smile wasn't behind him, it was on his own face, and it wasn't his expression. The phone went dark. Total blackness returned. In the silence, something took a step, and the apartment finally chose who it belonged to. Darkness swallowed the apartment completely. Not the soft dark of night, not the kind eyes adjust to. This was a dense, absolute absence, like the world had been turned off. The phone was dead now. No glow, no warmth, just a dead rectangle in his hand, suddenly useless. The silence pressed in hard. Then came the sound. A single step. It wasn't loud, it wasn't heavy. It sounded careful, measured, like something testing whether sound still worked the same way it used to. The step came from somewhere near the living room, but distance didn't mean much anymore. Space felt unreliable, stretched thin and folded wrong. He didn't move. Every muscle screamed at him to run, but fear held him in place like gravity. He had never been good at standing still when scared. That night in the abandoned complex, his instincts had failed him the same way, and someone else had paid for it. The air shifted again. The smell of dust grew thicker, almost sweet now, like old paper and something faintly burned. His chest tightened. His breaths came shallow and fast, loud in his ears. The apartment creaked, not randomly, purposefully. The sound came from the bedroom wall, then the ceiling, then the floor beneath his feet, like the building was responding to movement that wasn't visible, like it was tracking something crawling through it. He finally took a step forward. The sound behind him stopped instantly. That alone told him everything. Movement mattered. He froze again, heart hammering so hard it felt like it might break through his ribs. In the pitch black, he could feel the presence repositioning, adjusting to his new location. Not rushing, never rushing. It didn't need to. Time meant something different to it. A faint sound drifted through the apartment then. Soft, familiar, almost comforting. Breathing. Not his. It came from the direction of the bedroom. His stomach dropped. Because that was impossible. He lived alone. He had always lived alone. Unless that wasn't true. Unless someone had never really left. The memory surfaced fully now, no longer blurred by distance or denial. Her, the second character in this story, the only other person who had received that location pin weeks ago, the only one who had gone inside the abandoned complex with him. She had been curious in a way he wasn't, less cautious, more willing to look closely, to linger, to stand still when something felt wrong. While he photographed doorways and hallways, she had stared down the long corridor at the end of the building, at the thing he'd called a shadow, at the thing that hadn't moved, until it had. The sound of breathing in the bedroom grew louder, uneven, strained. It didn't sound alive in the right way. There was a rhythm to it, but it dragged, like air moving through something that didn't need oxygen anymore. The apartment temperature dropped again. He could feel it now, clearly. The cold wasn't just around him, it was layered, pockets of it in corners, in doorways, and places light never fully reached even during the day. The bedroom floor creaked. One slow step, then another. The breathing stopped. Something else replaced it. A soft scraping sound, like fingernails brushing lightly against painted wood. The bedroom door handle clicked. Very gently. The door didn't open. Not fully. It stopped halfway, just enough to let the darkness inside the apartment spill out into the rest of the apartment. That darkness felt different, heavier, older. The pressure behind him intensified, but now it wasn't focused on him alone. It was split, stretched between him and the doorway. The thing behind him wasn't alone either. The realization hit him slowly, painfully. The messages hadn't just been warnings, they were instructions from someone who already knew the rules, someone who had learned them too late. The air shifted again. The smell of dust grew thicker, almost sweet now, like old paper and something faintly burned. His chest tightened. His breaths came shallow and fast, loud in his ears. The apartment creaked, not randomly, purposefully. The sound came from the bedroom wall, then the ceiling, then the floor beneath his feet. Like the building was responding to movement that wasn't visible, like it was tracking something crawling through it. He finally took a step forward. The sound behind him stopped instantly. That alone told him everything. Movement mattered. He froze again, heart hammering so hard it felt like it might break through his ribs. In the pitch black, he could feel the presence repositioning, adjusting to his new location. Not rushing, never rushing. It didn't need to. Time meant something different to it. A faint sound drifted through the apartment then. Soft, familiar, almost comforting. Breathing. Not his. It came from the direction of the bedroom. His stomach dropped. Because that was impossible. He lived alone. He had always lived alone. Unless that wasn't true. Unless someone had never really left. The memory surfaced fully now, no longer blurred by distance or denial. Her, the second character in this story, the only other person who had received that location pin weeks ago, the only one who had gone inside the abandoned complex with him. She had been curious in a way he wasn't, less cautious, more willing to look closely, to linger, to stand still when something felt wrong. While he photographed doorways and hallways, she had stared down the long corridor at the end of the building, at the thing he'd called a shadow, at the thing that hadn't moved, until it had. The sound of breathing in the bedroom grew louder, uneven, strained. It didn't sound alive in the right way. There was a rhythm to it, but it dragged, like air moving through something that didn't need oxygen anymore. The apartment temperature dropped again. He could feel it now, clearly. The cold wasn't just around him, it was layered, pockets of it in corners, in doorways, in places light never fully reached even during the day. The bedroom floor creaked. One slow step, then another. The breathing stopped. Something else replaced it. A soft scraping sound, like fingernails brushing lightly against painted wood. The bedroom door handle clicked. Very gently. The door didn't open. Not fully. It stopped halfway, just enough to let the darkness inside the apartment spill out into the rest of the apartment. That darkness felt different, heavier, older. The pressure behind him intensified, but now it wasn't focused on him alone. It was split, stretched between him and the doorway. The thing behind him wasn't alone either. The realization hit him slowly, painfully. The messages hadn't just been warnings, they were instructions from someone who already knew the rules, someone who had learned them too late. The air shifted again. The smell of dust grew thicker, almost sweet now, like old paper and something faintly burned. His chest tightened. His breaths came shallow and fast, loud in his ears. The apartment creaked, not randomly, purposefully. The sound came from the bedroom wall, then the ceiling, then the floor beneath his feet. Like the building was responding to movement that wasn't visible, like it was tracking something crawling through it. He finally took a step forward. The sound behind him stopped instantly. That alone told him everything. Movement mattered. He froze again, heart hammering so hard it felt like it might break through his ribs. In the pitch black, he could feel the presence repositioning, adjusting to his new location. Not rushing, never rushing. It didn't need to. Time meant something different to it. A faint sound drifted through the apartment then. Soft, familiar, almost comforting. Breathing. Not his. It came from the direction of the bedroom. His stomach dropped. Because that was impossible. He lived alone. He had always lived alone. Unless that wasn't true. Unless someone had never really left. The memory surfaced fully now, no longer blurred by distance or denial. Her, the second character in this story, the only other person who had received that location pin weeks ago, the only one who had gone inside the abandoned complex with him. She had been curious in a way he wasn't, less cautious, more willing to look closely, to linger, to stand still when something felt wrong. While he photographed doorways and hallways, she had stared down the long corridor at the end of the building, at the thing he'd called a shadow, at the thing that hadn't moved, until it had. The sound of breathing in the bedroom grew louder, uneven, strained. It didn't sound alive in the right way. There was a rhythm to it, but it dragged, like air moving through something that didn't need oxygen anymore. The apartment temperature dropped again. He could feel it now, clearly. The cold wasn't just around him, it was layered. Pockets of it in corners, in doorways, in places light never fully reached even during the day. The bedroom floor creaked. One slow step, then another. The breathing stopped. The phone on the bedroom floor vibrated again. Its glow cut through the darkness like a wound. Pale, unnatural. The light didn't spread the way light normally did. It stayed close to the screen, as if the room refused to accept it. He stood frozen near the bed, chest heaving, every nerve screaming. The door behind him rattled once, softly, like someone testing whether it still mattered. It didn't. Whatever was outside didn't need doors anymore. The phone buzzed again. Don't move. That was different. Before, the messages had felt like warnings. Now they felt tired, strained, as if whoever was sending them was running out of time. He stared at the phone. He knew it wasn't his. His phone was dead in the kitchen. This one was older, scratched screen, cracked corner. He recognized it. It had belonged to her. The woman who had gone into the abandoned complex with him, the one who had stopped walking, the one who hadn't come back the same way. The room felt smaller the longer he stood there. The walls creaked, bending inward slightly, like the apartment was leaning in to listen. The air vibrated faintly, not from sound, but from attention. The phone vibrated again. It doesn't know I'm still here. That sentence settled in his chest like ice. Still here. Not alive, not safe, just present. The memories lined up now, no longer scattered. After that night at the complex, she had changed. Quiet. distant, like she was always listening to something he couldn't hear. Then one day, she stopped answering messages entirely. He had told himself she wanted space. He had told himself a lot of lies. The phone buzzed. It thinks I'm empty. The door handle behind him twisted slowly. The sound wasn't rushed. It wasn't angry. It was patient, curious, like a hand testing a lock out of habit. The presence outside the bedroom pressed closer. The walls groaned again, deeper now, as if the building itself was being bent around something too large to fit inside it. The phone vibrated harder. I learned by watching you. That hit harder than fear, because it meant she had been aware, watching, studying how he reacted, how he survived, how he moved without being noticed. The thing outside didn't slam the door open. It didn't need to. The pressure seeped through the cracks, crawling along the walls like invisible smoke. The temperature dropped sharply. His breath came out in white bursts. The phone buzzed again. It can copy what it understands. The realization snapped into place. The woman in the living room wasn't her anymore. It was an attempt, a practice shape, something the presence was using to learn what being human looked like from the outside. The phone vibrated. It wants a better one. The door creaked open slowly, just a few inches. Enough. The darkness on the other side felt deeper than the room he stood in, thicker, alive. The smell of dust poured through the gap, mixed now with something metallic. The pressure surged. He felt it brush against his thoughts, not his skin. Images flickered behind his eyes. Hallways, corners, stillness. That shadow at the end of the abandoned complex, waiting. The phone vibrated again, urgently. Listen carefully. The presence paused. That alone was terrifying. It was listening, too. The phone buzzed. It can't take you if you don't finish the pattern. The words made his head throb. Pattern, movement, stillness, light, attention. Rules. Everything had rules. The phone vibrated again. It only replaces what runs. Outside the door, something shifted. The floor creaked under weight that didn't feel physical. The woman's shape moved closer, her steps silent, wrong. The phone buzzed again. You have to let it think you're done. His heart pounded. Let it think. Let it assume. Let it decide. The pressure flooded the room now, thick enough to make his ears ring. The door opened wider. A shadow spilled across the bedroom floor, stretching toward him like a living thing. The phone vibrated violently. Don't fight. The woman stepped into the doorway. In the faint glow of the phone, her face looked unfinished. Familiar features arranged slightly wrong. Her eyes reflected no light. Her mouth twitched, trying to remember expressions. Behind her, the taller presence loomed, its shape bending the air, overlapping her outline like a puppeteer standing too close to its strings. The phone buzzed again. Be boring. The instruction felt absurd, but it made sense. No panic, no sudden movement, no reaction. Nothing interesting. He forced his breathing to slow, even as terror clawed at his chest. He lowered himself slowly onto the edge of the bed. The mattress creaked softly beneath his weight. The presence paused. The pressure wavered. The phone vibrated. It loses interest in still things. The woman took another step forward, then stopped. Her head tilted, confused. The thing behind her shifted, its attention narrowing, testing. He didn't look at it. He stared at the floor, at the dust, at nothing. Seconds dragged by like hours. The pressure slowly eased. The phone buzzed once more. This is where I failed.
The words carried weight, regret, something close to sorrow. The woman's shape twitched, then stepped back. The door creaked again, as the pressure withdrew slightly, like a tide pulling away from shore. The room felt lighter, not safe, just less crowded. The phone vibrated one last time. When it leaves, don't follow. The glow dimmed. The presence outside shifted, retreating slowly, dragging the wrong shape with it. The hallway beyond the bedroom filled with that heavy silence again. Then, stillness. The apartment settled. The walls stopped groaning. The air warmed by a few degrees. The smell of dust faded slightly. The phone screen went dark. He stayed seated on the bed for a long time, not daring to move, not daring to breathe too loudly. Eventually, the first hint of morning light crept through the bedroom window. Gray, weak, real. He was still alive, but he knew something now. The messages hadn't been sent to save him. They were sent to finish something unfinished, and whatever had learned his shape hadn't given up.
Morning didn't arrive the way it was supposed to. The light that crept through the bedroom window felt hesitant, thin, like it wasn't sure it was welcome. It didn't warm the room. It didn't chase the shadows away. It only revealed how tired everything looked. The walls, the floor, him. He remained seated on the edge of the bed long after the sky turned gray. He didn't sleep. Sleep felt dangerous now, like closing his eyes would count as looking away, like stillness without awareness might invite something to finish what it had started. The apartment was quiet again. Too quiet. Not the normal quiet of early morning, but the careful quiet of something pretending to be empty. When he finally stood up, his legs shook, stiff and weak as if he'd aged years overnight. The air felt normal. The smell of dust was gone. The temperature had stabilized. The bedroom door stood open, just as it always had. Nothing looked disturbed. That frightened him more than the darkness had. He stepped into the hallway slowly, listening for sounds that didn't belong. His footsteps echoed softly, familiar and real. The living room looked unchanged. The couch sat where it always did. The broken lamp lay scattered across the floor, glass glinting faintly in the gray light. Proof. Last night had happened. He glanced toward the kitchen. The phone lay where he dropped it, dead and dark. His reflection stared back at him from the microwave door, pale, hollow, older, and alone. He moved carefully through the apartment, checking corners, doorways, shadows. Nothing reacted, nothing shifted. The place felt passive, like it had already made its choice. He cleaned up the glass slowly, deliberately, every movement controlled, every sound measured. He didn't rush, he didn't hesitate. He remembered the rule: be boring. When the apartment returned to order, he sat on the couch and waited. Minutes passed, then hours. Nothing happened. By late afternoon, the tension in his body began to fade into exhaustion. Hunger gnawed at him. His hands stopped shaking. The world started to feel real again. That was when the phone vibrated. Not his, the old one. It lay on the coffee table now, screen lighting up softly. He hadn't touched it. The message appeared without sound. You did it right this time. His chest tightened. So it was still here, just quieter. The phone vibrated again. It left the apartment. Relief washed through him, sharp and sudden. His shoulders sagged, his eyes burned. But the relief didn't last. Another message followed. It didn't leave you. The meaning settled slowly, like sediment sinking in water. The presence didn't need the apartment anymore. It had learned enough. The phone vibrated. It can stay without being seen now. His reflection in the dark TV screen flickered subtly. For a split second, it lagged behind his movement, then matched it again. The phone buzzed. This is the part no one escapes. He felt it then. Not pressure, not fear, familiarity, a sense of something fitting into place, like a missing piece sliding home. The apartment no longer felt crowded because it wasn't the container anymore. He was. The phone vibrated one last time. Don't warn anyone. The screen went dark. He sat there for a long time, staring at his reflection, testing small movements, a blink, a breath, a tilt of the head. Everything matched. Perfectly. Days passed, then weeks. Life resumed. He went back to work, rode the train, walked the same streets, spoke to people, laughed at the right moments, slept through the night. Nothing followed him. Nothing chased him. No messages came again. And slowly the memory of fear softened into something distant, like a dream that didn't quite make sense anymore. Until one night, months later, he stood in his kitchen washing his hands. The apartment was quiet, familiar, safe. His phone buzzed on the counter. A message preview lit up the screen. Don't turn around. He didn't freeze. He didn't panic. He smiled faintly, because now he understood. He dried his hands carefully. He didn't turn around. And somewhere, very close, something learned that it no longer needed to ask permission.